Hi everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. This is Angelia. It's time for Friday Reads. A little bit different point of view today. And running late because we took this man Wilkie out to get his stitches out this morning. And he's free from his cone, and I am excited to announce that he is home for good. We failed. We failed to even begin the foster. We never even finished the foster application. And we decided that Wilkie is happy right here with us. And so now we are on a giant, big old puppy training project. But as you can see, he has waged a successful campaign to live with us forever. So here he is. All right. Okay, so there you have it. That's the big news story. Wilkie is going to stay. We have a new dog. We had exactly zero intentions of having a pet, but sometimes dogs just happen. What can you do? Cats happen too, but I'm drawing the line. This is it. This is crazy enough because we have a mostly grown 8-month-ish old puppy to work with and to love. So if you missed the beginning of the story, last week we took in a dog that was a stray dog off of the streets. He had been running around. He had been seen off and on for a number of weeks. He tried to follow Stephen one day. He'd come up to people and then he'd skitter away. And at some point, there's a few different people in the neighborhood that were trying to kind of corral him. And one time somebody got him and he dug out of their yard. And somewhere in there we said, famous last words, if anyone gets a hold of him, we could keep him temporarily until a foster placement is found. Well, moments of being corralled, he was sitting on our couch. He just turned out to be such a great dog. He fetches, kind of. I mean, he runs around, gets excited, and forgets that he was playing ball, sleeps through the night. He's good on the leash. The big thing we need to work on is just basic commands because he was in the cone, so we couldn't really work on him. And also the leaving the house piece because we've been taking turns and somebody's always kind of around to keep an eye on him, make sure he's not messing with his stitches, and all that's gone now. So we need to kind of baby gate an area and kind of start working incrementally on we leave and we come back. We're never gone that long because we're retired, so hopefully it won't be a big deal, but that's like the big project that's coming up. So Wilkie's doing great. He just kind of won us over. So I have a dog. All right, what else was going on? The week in television. We didn't watch a whole lot. We tried to watch a show that are we going to continue this show? I don't know. Probably not, but I'm not sure. Is Alien Earth. It's on Hulu. So in this show, it's like Alien, like the movies, but it's a TV show. I don't know if it takes place before or after or alternatively to Alien, but the monsters are pretty much the same. And it begins with they got loose in a research craft, and the craft crashed back to Earth, and the craft belongs to one big organization, but the city where it crashed belongs to another one. So now there's like a proprietary battle about who gets this thing. And they sent in this crew. Okay, this is the really whacked out part. So there's this new technology that is being secretly pioneered where they took some children that were dying of terminal diseases and they moved their consciousness into a synthetic adult body. And then I don't know what the purpose or what they're doing with them, but they're very enhanced and strong and fast and stuff like this. But they're all like 11 and 12. So it is kind of funny because it's a group of young adult people that are in their early 20s, but they're all have the body language and dialogue of middle schoolers. And they just decide this would be a great chance to try these folks out and send them into this crash where this spaceship is crashed into a big high-rise apartment building. Well, go in there and see what's in there, see what you can find. And then Timothy Oliphant is in here looking really, really strange and having no facial expressions and really bad dialogue. So it's such a waste. So I don't know. That one's probably but the baking show starts tonight. I'm so excited. Only Murders in the Building starts next week. So there's stuff on the horizon. And we saw another show in a review that looked good that we're going to try that comes out this weekend. So TV's coming, but it wasn't very good this week. So I'm finally going to talk about books on my book channel. I did actually finish a couple of things, and I'm in the middle of some others. The reading time has been a little bit shortened. It's getting better. We're kind of working into a routine and a pattern so that Stephen and I both can do things that we want to do and need to do. I don't know if we're acclimating Wilkie to our schedule or he is modifying our schedule to him, but somehow we're kind of, it's getting better. So I did finish reading The Book of Records by Madeleine Thien with Pat from Book Chat with Pat. This was a buddy read, and we had a schedule where we were going to take 3 weeks, but we just kind of got into it and we read the whole thing. So we're still kind of at the end of the discussion and kind of mulling it over and looking at some interviews and some other videos that people made about this book, and still like the conversation is sort of gently tapering off. But this book is kind of speculative fiction, but it's also just a very philosophical book. Whoops, my elbow fell off the table. It's about a girl named Lena and her father who leave Foshan, China, and they're in a enclave called the Sea. I think the building is actually called the Sea, and it is actually kind of at a port. They can see people coming and going in ships all the time. And as you read it, you realize that it's not really a tangible physical place. It's sort of a metaphysical, metaphorical kind of a place. And while she is there with her father and wondering what happened to her mother, her great aunt, and her brother that they were separated from, and how will they ever get back and reunite? That's what's on Lena's mind. Her father has a lot of things he hasn't told her. And then she meets 3 scholars that are also residing in the building, and they are going by nicknames when she meets and talks to them. But we find out that they are all actual people from history, and they are Hannah Arendt, historian, political writer, Dafu, who was a Tang Dynasty poet, and Baruch Spinoza, 17th century, I believe, philosopher from Amsterdam. And the thing that they all have in common is a theme of exile, of different times in their life when they were ostracized or cast out or had to go on the run, or were at odds with the system for political reasons or religious reasons, having radical thoughts, different kind of reasons that they became exiles. Somehow they are coinciding in this one place, even though they come from different centuries. This book has a lot to do with time and memory and the purpose of the human's role in the brief moment that we are on this planet in the large scale of things. It's very philosophical, and it's not so much about plot. There is plot because we find out things about these different characters, and sometimes their adventures are kind of harrowing, and their escapes and their troubles. We find out less about Lena than I would prefer, and I think Pat agreed with that as well. It's like there was some major questions about some of the characters that never really were answered, and there's a lot of open-ended things to consider and reflect on and talk about and decide, and I guess we're still kind of doing that. But it's a different kind of book, and it's probably not going to be to everyone's liking, but it was pretty interesting, and I enjoyed reading it with somebody to talk to. It'd be hard to just read this in a vacuum by myself, but I really enjoyed. This was a great one for a buddy read. Then the other one that I finished was one of the plays for this month's Endless Drama. I went ahead and read The Bald Soprano by Eugene Ionesco. So first of all, I thought that for some reason Eugene Ionesco is Italian, but he is not. He is French, but he was originally Romanian. His family immigrated to France, and then in his young adulthood, he kind of went back and forth. He taught French in Romania, and then he taught in France, and He had a job at a publishing company, and he didn't really start writing drama until he was in his late 30s. The Bald Soprano is a satirical absurdist play. It's just a really kind of a nonsensical conversation during dinner one day between two couples and a fireman that shows up, and it's bizarre. It's very absurd. It's kind of funny. I don't want to talk a lot about it because I'm the only person so far that's read it in the group, and I don't know if anyone is planning to come along and give it a shot. But it's a weird one. I can see where it'd be really fun to see it staged. I remember reading it as a student and thinking it was funnier than I did this time. This time I just thought like, okay. It's just, I don't know, maybe I wasn't in the right mood. It's obviously a commentary on suburban life circa the 1950s. I think it was published in 1950. You know, the mundane existence, people that are going through routines and rituals and not hearing each other, not really communicating. I guess you could play it really broadly or more subtly, but I've never seen it perform, so I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it's a classic of its time and its genre, but it didn't really land that well with me this time. I don't know. I read it also, I'm like, that's kind of funny, I guess. Some of the lines are funny. But it was a reread though, so it counts in my 60 before 60 reread setup. And that brings us to the currently reading. So I am reading one book with a group that is really intriguing and challenging, and it is The Angel of History by Rabih Alameddine. This is the first time I've read a book by this author, although he does have a couple other ones that look pretty interesting, and he has a new book just now coming out I think this month. I'm reading it on my Kindle app on my iPad. I'm reading it with the Pinheiro Project group. Now it's an Alameddine project, and we're on a little schedule, so I'm just going to make a couple of remarks about what this book seems to be about and the structure, but I don't want to comment on anything past the part we're supposed to be on this week. There's a few different things going on in the structure. One part is a man named Jacob who is waiting in a psychiatric clinic. And we also are reading excerpts from his journals that cover different times in his life, and he has been grieving for many, many years of the death of his partner, who was a doctor who died of AIDS decades before. And he also is reflecting on a whole group of very close friends that he lost during that time as well, and lamenting how the young gay men that he knows today just don't really understand the whole scope and the devastation of that. There's also going further back into his childhood and how he came to live in San Francisco in the United States, even though he grew up in the Middle East. And then the other part, the weirdest part that I haven't talked about, is the conversations between Satan and Death. Satan and Death are sitting in Jacob's apartment and discussing him and going over his life story. And I don't know if they're trying to bring him down or help him out. It's kind of unclear. And other saints are coming into the story because he was born Muslim, but then he was later sent to Catholic school. I've told a lot. I need to stop. It's an unusual book. I'm really intrigued, and I'm really glad. Again, I've been having a really good luck with the ones that really benefit from a partner or a group reading them in that fashion. So we will continue on with the book and see where the story of Jacob goes. And then last but not least, I am also reading The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. And this is one of the books in my project, a science fiction double feature this month. I wanted to read a book by Walter Tevis, one of his science fiction books. He's written some books that weren't science fiction that are really well known, like The Queen's Gambit and The Color of Money. But he also wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth, which was made into a movie in the 70s with David Bowie. This was published in 1963, and the story takes place in the 80s, so it's really kind of fun to see what Walter Tevis thought the 80s were going to be like. And what's funny is people are talking on basically FaceTiming when they're on the phone. There's a screen picture. So that had not quite happened in the 80s, but good guess. And the rest of it's not like it's real futuristic or anything. The rest of it seems I don't know, actually kind of seemed like the 60s because just the way men and women are conversing. Anyway, so there's this guy who goes by the name of Thomas Newton, who is an alien from another planet. And he has spent years training and getting ready for his time on Earth so that he can pass and blend in. He watched a bunch of old TV shows to figure out how people talk and move and what they should wear and things like this. He looks kind of weird and people are kind of taken aback because he isn't, he's humanoid, but he is kind of different. He's taller than average. He's very thin. He's very pale. He's just a little bit strange. His eating habits are kind of weird. And so people just think, but they don't know that he's an alien. Except, well, one person sometimes has actually crossed their mind. But so he comes down and he starts talking to this wealthy man that he wants to get him to invest in some money-making schemes. And then they make a bunch of money, and then he wants to start this big research project. We don't know really what he's doing at this point or what his aim is, except he does kind of refer to his planet and Earth both as dying planets. And he is occasionally homesick to go back to his planet, but he has to see out this project that's going to take years. What is exactly he's doing, I don't really know. But somewhere along in here, so we have him, we have Farnsworth, who's the wealthy investor guy, and then we have a professor named Bryce, who one day finds some film at the drugstore that's a new kind of film that develops itself in the can. And this is before Polaroid cameras. And he is a chemistry professor, and he's really intrigued, and he decides to take it all apart and analyze it, and he finds out that the substances in this product are not anything that actually that he knows to be actually available on Earth. And so how did they make this? How is this working? He's very, very curious, and he tracks down the company, and he finally works his way into actually getting a job hired by Thomas Newton. So he's the one that a couple of times it crosses his mind, wouldn't it be weird if he actually isn't from Earth? Then he thinks, oh, come on, that's crazy. So that's the setup. So far, there's only been one woman in the story whatsoever, and it's not a great part, but I'll talk about her after I get to the end of the story. I'm gonna reserve judgment and see where her storyline goes. They're building something out in the countryside. I think they're in Kentucky. It's a strange one, but I'm enjoying it. That had to be like the worst summary of a book of all time. I know you right now you're looking it up and ordering a copy, aren't you? Okay, so that's what I'm reading. What's coming up next? I will be reading in the upcoming week. Let's see, I don't have it with me. Hang on. This is the one I know for sure. I'm going to read On the Calculation of Volume, Part 1 by Solvej Balle, and translated by Barbara Haveland. I'm going to read this with Louise. She has already read it. She wants to reread it, and I want to read it for the first time. It's a shorty. The phone rang right then. I've got The Director by Daniel Kehlmann to start reading with the Reading the Globe project, hosted by Roz and Katya. And there's some others as well. I'm trying to, by the time we get to the midpoint of the month, that I've kind of put the group projects into play, and then I can read the singles along the side. Also, the 30 Stories in 30 Days is up and running. We're on day 5, and thank you if you have been checking in and trying out any of those stories. It's been pretty interesting so far. Of course, the story on day 1, it was Good Country People by Flannery O'Connor, which is my all-time favorite story. But out of the other 4, I think my runner-up so far in that batch is the Julia Armfield story, which is really strange. What is it called? I think it was called The Great Awake. It's about a time when everybody's sleep is like personified. Sleep is a character that comes out of each person and follows them around like a shadow, and nobody sleeps. Everyone is awake all the time, and life gets really strange. But that project will be continuing on throughout the month, and you can find the stories in my community post. So I'm going to wrap it up and go see what Wilkie's up to. I hope you are having a great day and that you have a great weekend ahead, and I will be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.